I got a couple quick questions for you. Nasty.
Okay.
Number one, how many flight hours did you retire with in the Tomcat or a total, tactical aviation, naval aviation? And number two, did you ever have your hand on the ejection handle?
I pulled the ejection handle. So 3,750 hours total, 3,000 in Tomcats, 3,060, 500 hours in Super Hornets. And I flew Super Hornets as a hobby, as a Nimitz CO and a striker commander, only in the daytime and usually just refuelers. They didn't want any risk. Got 1,240 traps. Got my 1,000th trap as CO and Nimitz. Let's see what it says here, March 16th of 2008 on my big 1,000th trap thing right in front of me. I pulled the ejection handle in an F-14A as an instructor pilot in August of 1987 in a RAG airplane, down off the coast of San Clemente, California. So, put an airplane in the water. So yes, I do have one of those.
Oh, you got to swim in the cold water too then?
I did. So too, which means you did too.
No. One of our previous shows, gent was coming off of San Clemente and pulled it at night, and he said, it sucked because it was black night. He couldn't see shit. It was about 6 to 8 foot seas, and it just kept dumping him into the water. He said he'd be sitting there fat, dumb, and happy, and the next thing he knows, he's underwater and getting dunked and tumbled, and it was about an hour.
Yeah.
And while he was there, a 47 came over, hovered over him, and left. He's like, what, did he not see me? What the hell? Said he spent an hour and 15 in the water before they came back and got him. But the helo needed gas, and so they left without him, and another helo came and picked him up.
Oh, wow.
But, yeah.
This one was bright at noon on a gorgeous blue day. Just beautiful outside. And it was nice out. So, yeah.
Was that engine failure, hydraulic failure? What led up to your ejection?
This story is actually out there in a couple of places. And it's pretty funny. The first one that I've seen that's pretty damn funny is, Mark Vizquera did a thing called Tomcat Tales. And it's a bunch of storytelling on, yeah.
We had another guest, that was a part of Tomcat Tales.
Okay. So Slammer Richardson was in my back seat, and he was a student pilot. Was that the guy you had?
No,
Pester.
Pester.
Oh yeah. Yep. So, there's a whole bunch of storytelling. And what they did was at Hook a couple of years ago, at Kill a couple of years ago, they interviewed me about the story I'm about to tell you, and they interviewed Slammer, who was in the back seat, about the same story. And then they play off each other, and it's hilarious. Besides the Tomcat Tales section that I did, I haven't really talked to anybody else on the podcast about the thing. So the three of us are in a good space. So I was an instructor in VF 124 in August of 1987. I got there in May, right after my first sea tour. I was an instructor pilot and an instructor landing signal officer. And I took Slammer, who was a student pilot on his way to the tactics phase, out on a hop we called the flip-flop hop. And what you would do is you put a student pilot in the back seat, and the instructor pilot would demonstrate kind of how the airplane flies tactically. You remember in the Harrier, there were your corner airspeed, your best turn, your best instantaneous turn rate, biffing, how you do all that stuff, what the airplane feels like. And so we demonstrate that, talk through that. And then we also demonstrated different ways to do loops. So of course, standard 4G loop. And then in the Tomcat, one of the strengths is getting vertical. So kind of doing that egg where you come back down and extend in the vertical, showing that. And then because the airplane had this kind of nasty, departure sort of phase out of the vertical, you showed 3 vertical recoveries. The first one was on your stomach, 20 degrees. So 70 degrees nose high, go to 0 airspeed, the airplane falls away. Second one was 110 degrees. So you're on your back 20 degrees, go to 0 airspeed, fall away. And then the one that got everybody's attention was straight up. So 90 degrees straight up, go to 0 airspeed. The airplane does all kinds of weird octaflugerons and stuff. And the idea, and it can look to you like you're in a spin. And so like all of our flight training, in the Tomcat in this phase, you taught the students, keep your hands off everything. And I used to tell people when I was in the back seat, show me your hands, feet on the deck, let the airplane flop around. It's going to flop around. And finally, when it comes out of it and it's going nose down, now recover the airplane. This vertical recovery, if you got it parked pretty nose high, would water your eyes and ring your bell a little bit when banging around, because that, we talked about flying tennis courts, a huge moment arm. So you were on the end of that moment arm and whipping around, right? So I had been taught, and I did in my first squadron, use the idea where you could go up in the Tomcat and right about 100 knots, you go up, and the idea was, on the vertical recoveries, the pilot's gone up, he's not looking inside, he's looking at the bogey, and he realizes now he's stuck. And so what do you do when the airplane falls off? Get the nose out of the vertical, but then let it go and let it do its thing. So that was the idea. So now you're stuck, what do you do? But I learned in my RAG class as a student that you could go up and about 100 knots, shove the stick forward, and the airplane would translate kind of on its belly and do this real nice kind of vertical pirouette, and then you come down on a guy. So I used that. And so I was briefing Slammer in the brief. By the way, there is a tactical use of this vertical straight up thing where you get there on purpose without enough airspeed to go up, and right past 100 knots, shove the stick forward, and the airplane will go like this. And so we do the brief, we go out, and the reason it's called the flip-flop hop is you go out, instructors in the front, do all the demos, student in the back, come back to Miramar, land, hot pump, switch seats, hot pump meaning put a new bag of gas in the airplane, swap seats, and now instructors sitting in the back, students in the front. The two first FAM hops when the student pilot's flying and you're in the back as an instructor pilot, and this hop, scariest because you have no controls. And all you can do is narrate to the student. And so it's always kind of a stressful hop. But usually in the front.
Quick question, Nasty. So you just taught me something new. In the Tomcat, in the RAG, there wasn't a trainer with had controls in the back seat?
Nope.
Oh,
no
shit.
such thing as a Tomcat trainer. Yeah.
Oh, shit. Okay, I didn't know that. Okay, this is kind of serious now. Yeah. Sorry. Please continue.
It's kind of like any airplane, that's only single seat. Think F-35 right now. There are no two-seat F-35s.
Yeah.
And so it's the same sort of idea back then. But still, instructor pilot gets in the back. Of course, you learn how to work the back seat, which is always a trick. And now you're sitting in the back and this guy in the front who can easily kill you in a heartbeat.
Right.
But anyway,
we go out. But
typically the first part of the flip-flop hop, the instructor's in there and you know how to fly the airplane. So anyway, Slammer and I go out and we do all the maneuvers and stuff, and we do the vertical maneuvers. We do the straight up maneuver. We get up there like this, and I'm trying like crazy to push the airplane over, and it won't go. I'm shoving on the stick, and I'm keeping it parked straight up, and it won't go, and it keeps translating, pretty much straight up. And the first time falls out of the vertical, and it's like, man, whips around. We're getting bashed around the airplane. It kind of wobbles around, and we recover the airplane and start flying back. And so we completed all of it. And so we're about 70 miles to the southwest of San Clemente Island, 100 and some miles from San Diego. Got 6,600 pounds of gas, so enough to maneuver and stuff. And we're heading back to Miramar. And fateful words, I say to Slammer, hey, we're complete here, heading back, flip-flop. Is there anything else you'd like to see before you're flying it for real? And he goes, yeah, I want to see you do that vertical pushover thing you briefed me on, the tactical part. Okay, lock the harness up, we go, so start at 15,000 feet and you just pull the airplane straight up into the pure vertical and park it there and just keep it just straight up.
Yep.
And I'm dancing on the rudders and I'm at full military power, not an afterburner, dancing on the rudders and keeping this thing straight up, and the airplane starts to backslide. And when the Tomcat backslides, you get a bunch of blue smoke in the cockpit from the oil it's burning and stuff. And then we had a little 69-cent piece of string that was screwed to the nose. You could tell when the airplane was flying straight. We had a yaw trim, and we had a ball, of course, but you always looked at the yaw string to see if you were flying straight or not. And so when you started going backwards, of course, in the clear blue sky, you can't see anything, but you can see when the yaw string flips around. So I used to kind of, perk my head up, look over the dash, see the yaw string flip around and tell Slammer, we're up hot mic, and then go Slammer, hey, the yaw string flipped around. Right about the airplane slides back on, and I had it parked completely straight up. I mean, the airplane isn't coming out of the vertical at all. It's rotating a little bit due to the torque on the engine. We're sliding backwards. I'm trying to push on the airplane. I haven't let go of the controls all the way to 0 speed, sliding backwards. I'm pushing on the stick. Dancing on rotors, keep it straight up. And the left engine stalls. This huge bang, yellow fireball goes by my left ear.
Yeah, fire shot out the intake.
Yeah, shut out the intake. Whoa! I mean, scared the shit out of both of us. And so what you do for an engine stall, and the airplane starts coming off to that direction because we're full power on the left side. And so it goes off, left stall light, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, lights going off, flashing. And so your bolt face for engine stalls, you pull both throttles to idle. It doesn't say pending flight regime, just pull them to idle. So we're still coming off at pretty much no airspeed over the intake. And I pulled both throttles to idle, and the right engine stalled. Bang! Fire out the right side. Now, and now the airplane's doing what it always does, coming out of the vertical with that extra added attraction of the asymmetric thrust, starting it on its back, flipping around, doing the circus ride. And so now we're getting the crap beat out of us. And because Slammer was in the back seat, he was thinking back seat, flat spin procedures. Because I'm in the front seat trying to figure out what's going on and very, very much focused on restarting at least one of the engines before we have to eject. I don't have that nice neutral backboard of show me your hands, put your feet on the, on the deck, show me your hands, what's your airspeed, what's your turn needle, you go through what's your angle of attack to determine whether the airplane is actually spinning. Okay. Right? And so what ends up happening is we start running around, all this, and airplanes oscillating back and forth, and I'm not patient enough. And so I go, no, this airplane's spinning. I'm going to force it out of the, the vertical. And it was just whipping like crazy. I've got to get the nose down so I can get 300 knots on the airplane so I can air start one of the engines. Because if I don't, we're going to have to eject. So I put controls in too early. And what I did was I kept the airplane in a spin, basically didn't allow it to recover, even though all I had to do was really let everything go. And then I might have had enough altitude to get an engine started. But that we never got to that point. We passed 10,000 feet out of control, which is mandatory eject altitude. And Slammer goes 10,000 feet. And I'm like, I didn't say a word. Like, okay, somebody's going to recover this airplane and we're going to go home. We got to 8,000 feet. It's like, holy shit. Okay, I don't have it. And right about then.
So you're going through denial, acceptance.
Yes. Yes. All the stages of grief right then. And, oh, man. And it's like, oh, my God, and 8,000 feet. I said, nope, I don't have it. Eject, eject, eject. So I reached up, pulled the handle. And as I'm pulling the handle, those big old, loops that we had, I watched the canopy come off. And it was really funny. You guys know in tactical airplane, the canopy is like right in front of you. It's like a car window. You put your hand on the sill, right, and hold on to the canopy. Right. But it looks like it's 8 feet in front of me. Wow. It looks like it's 8 feet in front of me, and it comes off with this boom, bunch of brown smoke as the SMDC lines went off. Slow motion. I'm not kidding. Slow motion. And then I pulled the handles down to my chest, center of my chest. Nothing happened because time expansion. Nothing. I'm just sitting there like, oh, is this seat going to work? And then I went out and, hurt the shit out of my back. It really, really hurt. I thought, well, that's where I broke my back because I remember and thinking this entire time, well, you don't feel pain with the adrenaline of something like this. And so I must have really hurt my back. And this is in the quarter second that it takes to go out of the airplane. Yeah. And there's like this bam, bam, bam. I see the airplane side number as the nose spins away as I'm flipping over. I see my feet with the leg restraints on them, and then a big flash of orange when the parachute opens, and then blam, I'm in the chute. Wow. And I had the face curtain in my hand, and I let it go. And I'm like, oh no, because you can keep the face curtain right as a souvenir.
Right. Sure. Yes.
Anyway, I look over his Slammer. And he looks like he's dead. It's like the previous story. He's hanging down, his head's down, his arms are down. He's looking like Goose in the first Top Gun, going down. I'm like, oh my God, I killed him. And then I start going through my survival procedures and stuff. And And I look back over at him, and he's back up, and he looks like he's flying his parachute, and he's looking like a model, right out of the movies, on how to do a parachute ride. Yeah. But it's just kind of funny. So I'm trying to get all my stuff out. I'm trying to see whether my raft will come out, and I go, okay, I got to inflate my LPA first. So I inflate that thing, and it just pushes my head right. I mean, in the pool when you do water survival, those things barely work. And for real, they're like rocks. I mean, bam! And now I'm looking up. I can't do anything but check my chute. So I got my chin stuck up there. I have to take my oxygen mask off. Helmet rotates off the back. Finally pull my chin down, so I'm kind of bareheaded coming down. I try to pull my raft out, and the little handle on the seat pan, I pull the handle, and it feels like it comes off in my hand. It's like, okay, that's not working. That's kind of weird. So I'm walking around trying to see if my raft is out. And I get this idea that if I can get Sam to tell me my raft is out, I'm going to be okay. So I start yelling at him. I'm like, Sam! Because I want, is my raft out? Kind of, Sam! And he's got his helmet on. We're a couple hundred yards away, and I'm screaming. Finally, he sees me, and he sees me yelling. And so you get this 4-line release in the parachute where you pull these little toggles, and the lines come off the back of the parachute, and it dumps a little air out the back, and it keeps you from oscillating. Well, it also gives you about 4 knots of forward speed. So both of us pulled our 4-line release, point towards each other, and now we're driving towards each other at about 8 miles an hour, and it's obvious we're going to hit. I'm like, holy shit! And we go by each other. The canopies must have touched because we're this big long, whoa! And so we stay pretty far apart, and end up going down and getting in the water and getting in the raft. And so I get in my raft, drop my coke fittings right as my boots hit the water. The water was pretty nice. It was nice and blue outside. It's a gorgeous day. And there's an E2 went over us, and he had watched us eject. And he comes out, hey, look at that, an air show. Oh, they ejected. So he becomes on-team commander. We actually jumped out in the middle of an exercise. 8 Navy ships, 6 helicopters. And so we had helicopters over us in a heartbeat. When the E2 went over us, a report goes back to the beach that one guy was in good condition. That was me, because I had done the little maneuver to get up in my one-man raft, sitting straight up. And Slammer was laying on his stomach. And so they said, well, the second guy's in fair condition. Well, what Slammer was doing, he's a surfer. He was paddling over to me like on a surfboard in his little raft. And he's going, shit, that was awesome.
No.
Holy shit. He's like yelling, grinning, here we are. And we tied up, kind of like the Addams Family, old series, kind of opposite each other. And we're on these 4-foot crests. We come up with this crest, and I see this, and of course, I'm totally terrified of sharks. We come up with the crest, I see this gigantic animal on the next wave over, and there's a nose, a fin, a long back, and a huge fin, and then and then water. We go back down in the trough, and I'm trying to tell Slammer, there's something over there. We come back up. It's the airplane.
Oh.
The Tomcat.
Oh.
The Tomcat had landed flat, and it was, and the reserve buoyancy had put it back up on the surface. There was the fin in the front was the windscreen with no canopy. The fin in the back was the tails, and it was just sitting on top of the water with this big BF-124 paint scheme on it that subsequently sank.
Oh wow!
2 helicopters came pick us up. One grabbed Sam, one grabbed me, and then we went back to Miramar, and sitting in the skipper's office, dripping wet, trying to tell him what I had done. And he goes, God damn it, Nasty. He goes, that tactical maneuver, that was good in block 90s when you were in 51, and he's block 135. That doesn't work. I'm like, well, that would have been good to know. And it was about 5 weeks. I went through 3 boards. They all passed, although the safety board where they basically said pilot error, kind of, sucks the ego out of you for a while. About 5 weeks before I got back in the airplane, and we went out east over land. And in the Cane Moa, I did, with this poor guy in the back seat, I said, okay, we're going to go do one of these vertical recoveries. It's almost the most terrifying time of my life, over the ejection and going up there and trusting the fact that it ain't going to do the same thing to me again. Went just fine, recovered the airplane, flew back home. Said, that's enough. Flew back home and landed. Anyway, that's the ejection story.